Hey, it's Christine from Storyworthy. Today on the show, comedian Shawn Pelofsky talks about doing stand-up comedy in the middle of a crazy pornographic show.
And he said, well, basically, I booked this show and I booked the comedians that come on it. Basically what happens is there are two porn star hosts and they take calls, and then a comedian comes out and does some time, 5 minutes, and then they leave. I'm backstage, right? I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this, can't believe this. And then one of the porn stars, I think it was Jessie James, she turns to the camera and she says, you know who also likes a cum load all over her titties? Our comedian, Shawn Pelofsky.
Today on the show, comedian Shawn Pelofsky talks about doing stand-up comedy in the craziest place ever. Stay close.
Hi, my name is Shawn Pelofsky, and you are listening to Storyworthy.
Welcome to Storyworthy. My name is Christine Blackburn, and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Whether you're a longtime fan of the show, of over 11 years now, people. It's 11 years in July, so I'm going with 11 years. Or you're a brand new listener, thanks for tuning in to Storyworthy. Now, I hope you heard the story last week with dancer and actress Heather Morris. I never knew Heather Morris, because generally on Storyworthy, it's just comedians. But now and then, there's just really interesting people. And she's one of them. Great girl. And she talked about going to Africa on safari. And, like one day you eat at somewhere and then, it's kind of like a package thing. And one of the days you eat like out in the bush. While you are in an enclosed space, like in the hotel, it's still quite, there's like a fence. You know what I mean? There's like a fence. Anyway, the point is Heather Morris was out there with her husband, and here come the pride of lions. Shawn, you know what's coming, right?
Right.
Ah!
Yeah. Her death.
She was scared to death. She was so afraid. And anyway, they had a man there with a rifle and all that. And oh my gosh.
Well, that should have been calming right there.
Super,
a man with a rifle and a lion.
Super exciting story. So go back, you guys. Listen to Heather Morris last week. And by the way, we also talk a little bit about Dancing with the Stars and the show Glee that she was on for quite a while. And what made me laugh, Shawn, do you watch any Dancing with the Stars?
Honestly, I consider myself a dance aficionado. Oh. I love, if like in my next life, I would love to be like a professional contemporary dancer.
Yeah.
But Dancing with the Stars, I think, is such mediocrity because none of them are stars. Like they should rename it like Dancing with, what's your name again? Because I can't get it. It's just too cheesy. I'm a So You Think You Can Dance girl all day, every day.
I see. Well,
but I'm familiar with the show.
Yeah. Well, Heather Morris, she was also on So You Think You Can Dance, by the way, early on. I think it was like season 2 or something. But yeah, she was.
You never know like really their last names. But I know who you're talking about. Wow.
Yeah. Well, this is a girl. She's been dancing since she was 1. It's her whole life. And now she's married and has 2 beautiful little boys. But point is my daughter and I, we happen to watch Dancing with the Stars. Okay.
Right.
My daughter's a dancer. She's also been dancing since she was a child. She's at dance camp right now. And, we watch Dancing with the Stars. We made these little numbers up. We hold them up and we laugh because some of it is like you said, it's not just mediocrity. It's like flat out horrible. Like when Sean Spicer was on.
I heard about that.
For like 7 episodes. Come on. Like he couldn't dance. Or when the cat lady was on,
Most Shawns can't dance, by the way, Christine.
Most Shawns can't dance. Then they had on Carol Baskin, the Tiger King lady.
Who murdered her husband? Yes.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
So why not give her a show? Sure.
Exactly.
I've been in this business 1,000 years, but give the murderer her show.
That's right. Put her in a cat suit and put her in these little positions, and she steals the show. They kept her in for like 6 episodes. I mean, it's just silliness, but my daughter and I happen to like it. And we remembered when Heather Morris was on the show. And this might be when actually we turned. This is back in like 2018 or 2017. Heather Morris in the show, she and her partner got a perfect score of 10, the first 10 of the night. They also were at the top of the leaderboard, like they were number 1, and they got cut the same night.
Wait, are you saying Sean Spicer went on, or she and Sean got cut the same night?
I wish. No. Different seasons.
Different seasons. Okay, well, so she didn't lose to Sean Spicer. That's very important.
That's the good news. Yeah, that's the good news. She just laughed, I'm like, what did that feel like, because she couldn't have been better.
Of course.
And to be fair, well, she is on the show. What is she on the show for? She's already a dancer and She was the star. So it's all messed up,
Yeah.
She had more experience than anybody on the show. Anyway, back you guys, listen to Heather, but not today. Today I'm finally here with somebody I've wanted to have on for so long. Comedian Shawn Pelofsky. And let me just tell you why, Shawn Pelofsky. Because when anybody walks into the Comedy Store and you're on stage at, in the main room, or I suppose I could say this with any room, but that's where I've seen you many times. You are just so in control of what is going on. It's just,
Christine, is that what you think?
You're so strong. I know it.
It's all an illusion.
I don't care. You headline like nobody's business. You're just so strong and you have that audience laughing so hard. I'm telling you, you are so great. You really are.
I appreciate you, Christine. Thank you for saying that. I just think, I think probably when you've seen me at the Comedy Store in the main room, I'm always slated at that opening spot. So, what we call, you're the bullet taker. You take the bullet, you come out, people haven't even barely sat down and they've already paid like $600 just to sit down. They paid, $125 to park, 14 blocks down the street. They've walked in, they paid $30 a ticket. Now I think it's $150 a ticket post-pandemic prices. And then you sit down and then, it's a 2-drink minimum and God knows, maybe an enema, whatever else they're serving there. And, people are sitting down in LA, they're already angry when they sit down. So it's like, you're there to kind of diffuse and warm people up and grease them up. And it's a job. It definitely is a job. So I thank you for just taking notice and supporting me. I appreciate that.
But, I've never thought of you as the first person. I always thought that was Argus Hamilton. Isn't it always Argus? Usually?
No, I actually call it the vagina spot, the first spot, because it usually is a woman. It used to be always a woman because like no man wanted, God forbid any man opened that show. Their egos couldn't handle it. So they put a woman in the spot. Now, of course, they vary it and they put door people up maybe like 3 minutes before the very first regular at the Comedy Store spot. But it's usually me bringing up actually Argus Hamilton. So we go from, like pop culture, improvisation, high energy. And then I bring up Argus, who usually is a little more reserved and one-liner political humor, which is a nice balance.
Yeah, it is a nice balance. And I definitely think that nobody else, nobody in the audience is thinking about how this is crafted. That the fact is that you are ramping them up. You are getting them seated. You are saying hello. There's some jokes, but you're not full on into a routine. You kind of can't be because you have to split it up. Yeah, you're like the MC, but that's not called the MC. That's called what?
No, it's just called the vagina spot.
You are so funny. Well, I'm telling you, you're such a strong performer, and if you are not confident, you sure do fake it well.
I mean, I think after so many years of doing comedy, you find your ground, you find your place. And I think, are we ever truly comfortable in our skin as comedians? I mean, we're always up there. At least I think so. And I've talked to other comedians, we're doing our thing and we can be confident up there. But I think also in our heads when we come off the show, oh, I could have done this better, or this went well, or you notice the one person in the crowd that's not laughing when there could be 500 people hysterically laughing, but you see the one person with kind of a sourpuss look on their face. And so your mind, goes to that person. But I think I'm always wanting to be better and just hone my craft. And I think that's, after years of doing it, that I started to improvise more and utilize the skills that I trained with before I even did stand up, to just kind of vary my sets and to grow. And I also think it trains my brain. So, I don't get my early dementia doesn't take over before it should.
You really have to be a step ahead doing stand-up. You have to think ahead, like how long will it take to get to that laugh? And I think I only have about 10 seconds because I see this other group coming in. I mean, you have to be thinking of a lot of things going on in the room.
Yeah, I'm really intuitive, and I really notice a lot of things that are going on in the room. And I can see, even though it's dark, I really look to the very, very back. I look to the sides. I'm looking in, though I'm talking to people in the front, I definitely, it's kind of like a Robotron or like Terminator. I scan a room, and part of me is, that's a little bit of a neuroticism as well, because I'm scanning the room. I'm also like, hey, is this the active shooter? At these times and days, I just am very privy to people's energies, their mannerisms, their body language, and you have to be fast on your feet to pick up on that.
Yeah, that's
especially
really
if I don't
smart.
think someone's really right and something's really off about someone. I may talk to them and I may like make a joke like, oh my God, you're going to be under my car like Cape Fear after this show. I'll say something, but that's because I think something's maybe a little off with that person. And it's me to kind of give in a funny way, the heads up to the audience, like, hey, I just need you guys to see what I'm seeing here, because just in case this person or something's not right. And it's super crazy to sometimes think like that. But like I said, in these times, and especially after lockdown, people are getting like angrier and angrier. And people are, I see people acting out each day, and I don't even make eye contact.
No,
with
I hear what
anymore.
you're saying. That's a scary idea, though, because I don't think they have metal detectors yes, they do have the metal detectors at the Comedy Store, don't they?
No, they don't. There was a shooting at the Comedy Store a couple years ago where somebody shot someone on the patio.
That was on the patio. That was a drive-by, really. Or the guy split quickly.
No, the guy walked right up to the front door of the original room and shot someone against the door.
Yeah.
And it was a crowded night. So
and then he went just through the crowd and went across the street, down the hill.
It's just, you can't drop your guard. And though you're in a comedy club and you think people are there to laugh, and I want to be like, I sound like gloom and doom comic. Have you ever had anyone to see like, I'm like, I'm prepared. But I just think, like, you have to guess. And maybe sometimes people are just not having a good day, or something really terrible had happened to them before they got there and they sat down. And maybe that's why they haven't joined in on laughing. Or maybe, again, the way people look at comedy, not everyone's going to laugh at anybody. But if I am very privy to the room, and I really try to hone in. And I think that's what makes a really good, a comic who can do crowd work. You just, you can't just look at your front row. You really got to size up that room. And it doesn't matter how large that room is. You can't forget if there's people up, upstairs in the mezzanine or the balcony or wherever they are. You have to pay attention.
Well, first of all, I've learned something and I'm going to start doing that because I produce a lot of shows and I've never really considered that. I'm always wondering about, are they going to open the curtain? Are we going to get more space? Do you know what I mean? Like I'm always, it's just funny. I think it's just the whole thing. There's a production going on and the people that are in the audience, they don't even know it. They don't even know what's going on behind the scenes to make it all happen. It's exciting. We're going to get to your topic in just a second, which is nude comedy. This is like a perfect topic for Storyworthy. I'm so excited to hear that. But let me ask you one more question about your own comedy. You have this comedy album out called Stretch It Out. And part of your act, your comedy act is, you're always just kind of like improvising yoga positions and stretching it out, as it were.
Yes.
So it's so funny because the more you do it, the funnier it gets. And you do it at odd times. It just happens. It just comes out. Super funny.
And I've never taken yoga. How about that? Never.
I know. That's hilarious. That's too funny. And have you ever, though, worn pants it didn't work, or do you always wear tights, or how do you make that happen?
Well, you're never going to see me in tights, first of all, because nobody wants to see me in tights. That would clear the room in seconds. It'd be like, no, I usually try and wear pants, once in a while, once in a blue moon, especially like for the show Pretty Funny Women that Lisa Sunstead did. Once in a while, I've worn a dress, but always pants. Always high heels. It's rare. Sometimes you'll see me in tennis shoes. Sometimes maybe in the original room at the Comedy Store because I've fallen off the stage before moving or doing. But as far as stretch it out, no, I will attempt it in the highest heels. I will attempt it, but it's kind of like this crazy stretch pose and a lot of people will ask me, and it's something like, why do you say stretch it out? And I'll usually say it after it's almost like a rim shot.
Exactly. No, I get it.
When I enjoy a joke or I think that it was a good joke, and then I'll say stretch it out. But people have asked me time and time again, where, and it's just kind of a stupid tagline. And people are like, well, where did you get stretch it out? Where did that come from? And especially when I'm working the all gay male cruises and I perform on them, guys will come up to me and they're like, we were at dinner and we were discussing what stretch it out means. And we think it means stretch out your vagina. And I'm like, okay, first of all, you guys have given this way too much thought. I don't even know why you're having that conversation at dinner. You're on a gay ship. Really? Is this what we're discussing? There's so many things, so many shiny things to discuss. And I'm like, no, it does not mean stretch out my vagina. And it actually happened when I was working in Vegas at the Luxor. And I came up with it because I was on stage. They had a show, the Fantasy Show, which is topless women come out and dance or whatever they do. And then they have this idea in the middle of the show, a comedian comes out fully clothed for 5 minutes and does comedy.
Get out of here.
And it's like, I would come out fully clothed. Everybody's erection would go back into their bodies. And then I would yell at everybody for having an erection in a public place. I'd be like, you guys are all pervs. I can't believe you paid all this money to see this show. You're weirdos. And I was on stage and after I did a joke, I'd be like, yeah, stretch it. And then I'd hear backstage the girls go, stretch it out. And I go, stretch it out. So that's kind of where I came up with it. And it stuck. Funny. It meant really nothing, still means nothing. And, it's weird, but I can only stretch it out on one side of my body. I can only stretch it out on my left leg goes forward and my right leg goes back. But if you ask me to do the other side, I have no balance. And my brother's a chiropractor and he, sometimes has to work because I get comedy injuries from stretching it out. And he's like, you got to stretch it out on the other side. That's why. So.
Well, maybe that'll be another album, stretch it out on the other side or something like that,
Stretch it out, the AARP version. Sure.
I think it's absolutely hilarious. And of course, I know you grew up in Oklahoma, Jewish, and you make so many goddamn funny jokes about it. But come on, you must have had a lot of pain. And what about brothers and sisters?
Well, that was the pain. The brothers and no, I'm just kidding. I have brothers and sisters. I have a younger brother and two older sisters. And actually, growing up in Jewish in Oklahoma wasn't bad at all. I mean, there may have been very few of us, like my dad, my brother, my sisters, and I, but I was extremely proud as a child to be Jewish in Oklahoma. So it's like it didn't really bother me. And I was so proud about it that even like at show and tell in like 6th grade, I would bring, a menorah to class, or I would bring matzah to show everybody what it was for show and tell. And everybody knew I was the Jewish kid. I mean, I think there was one time when it did happen when I was really young, maybe like 2nd grade or 3rd grade. I was on the playground and a girl asked me where the horns on my head were. And I punched her. And then I'm the one who got in trouble. So, it's something like that you don't forget as a kid. And, I hid my horns very well. It's big hair. That's what's important. That's what I'm going to say. All Jews, we all know how to hide our horns very, very well.
God, unbelievable.
Except Harvey Weinstein, his horns showed. But that's a terrible, gross. But it's it's something that, I make fun of it, but it wasn't that terrible. I was different, but I was proud of being different. In Oklahoma, it was a nice place to raise a family. It's not a place I'm running back to. And It's not a place that I love to go home and visit because there really isn't much for me there.
Right. No, I definitely understand. I'm from Pittsburgh, so it's kind of I just went back, but I hadn't been home in like 2 years, over 2 years. So that was nice, because I hadn't been back. But now I'm here and, maybe, I don't know, like if I'm working, I definitely like to go back. Okay, this isn't important. Let's get on with your story. But before we do, I did want to remind you guys to head over to storysmashshow.com because things are changing, right? And we've done, over 50 shows in the last year during the pandemic, et cetera, of Story Smash. And in the last 6 months, we've been doing it in this way where it's been live on Facebook and YouTube. And that's okay. And it lives on YouTube. That's good. But there hasn't been as many people watching as I wanted. And I don't know if it's because I'm just giving it away, as it were, or it's because Facebook only shows certain people certain things. There's these algorithms that go on that I can't control. Anyway, I'm changing it up. Shawn, and you've done so many things. Your videos are so funny on YouTube, and you get so many of these friends behind you to do these ridiculously silly, little acts and things that you do on YouTube, these quick little clips.
Well, we've got to have you on it, Christine. We got to get you to do one as well.
I'll do it in a heartbeat. I'll do them in a minute, but you do so many funny things. And, my point is that sometimes you just feel artistically like, wait a second. Like my dad would always say, honey, if you do it, they will let you.
Good quote.
And so sometimes you just have to stop and say, wait, let's reformat what's happening here. So I don't know if we might go to Rush Tix. They want us, when I say us, I mean me. They want me to take the show there. And then there's a couple other platforms because a lot of people are getting in the game right now, with virtual, because there's definitely going to remain a virtual presence to comedy. Of course, we all want to be live, and being back live has been great so far. But I think there's also going to remain, well, as you know, you do all the YouTube stuff. So we'll see. So go to storysmashshow.com and you'll find out what's happening there, or just go to storyworthypodcast.com. I'll give you the info there as well. All right, you guys, let's bring on our guest today. You've heard her talking, Shawn Pelofsky. She is a comedian, obviously, and you have been around the world entertaining for the troops. You've been to many, many, many different countries. Is it always with the same tour company, as it were, when you go entertain?
No, actually, it's been with a couple of different, one company, I can't even think, was it called AKA? Was the first military tour that I did through Bosnia and Kosovo, Japan, Korea, and then Afghanistan was with Mike Burton. So other comedians start to figure out how to get contracts with the military.
Sure.
And so after I worked with one company, comedians figured out how to do it themselves and get those contracts. So the most of the time I've worked for other comedians. Like when I sat down with Mike Burton, who's a fellow comedian who's really hilarious, and I was going to Afghanistan, I remember sitting with him in a coffee bean on Sunset and him going, okay, I just need you to sign this death and dismemberment paper. And I was like, what? And he's like, well, yeah, I'm not responsible. It's just saying I'm not responsible for your death. And I was like, oh my God. So, and I signed it, over like a soy frappuccino. I signed my death and dismemberment papers, and that was it. I mean, I didn't even have anything to eat. I just was like, okay, this seems like a good trade here. And we're off. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So most of the times I've worked it's actually other comedians. And that's where it gets, if it's not like USO, I don't feel like when comedians are booking it, you're not as protected, which I've realized down the road. It's like, where's the special forces to protect us here? And they're like, there's no special forces coming. You're walking, you're going to be walking to, Uzbekistan right now. You're like, what? So very interesting. Definitely.
Do you know Johnny Cardinale?
Yes. I love Johnny.
Yeah. He's a wonderful guy, and he does a lot of those as well. And I think it'd be fun. I want to do one. I definitely want, but it's on my bucket list because I always think that they appreciate it so much that you're there. And it's kind of a win-win.
Well, you think that they appreciate it, that you're there. And for 99% of the time, they do. But my first time entertaining the troops was right after 9/11. And they sent me to Japan and Korea. And I thought, oh, they can't wait. And I was in Stars and Stripes. And it was the Navy. And it was a bar scene. And they just got off the boat after being on the ship for 3 months. And the Navy is unruly as fuck. And they were all drunk. And I performed in the middle of the dance floor. And within 5 seconds of my first line, someone yelled out, "You're a whore." And I'm like, I haven't even told you what a whore I am yet. Why don't we just they all started yelling out. And I go, let's do one at a time. And they yelled.
You're so funny.
They yelled. And 30 minutes into my set, and they were with me, against me, with me, against me. 30 minutes into my set, somebody pitched a cherry at my face like a hard ball, like a baseball. They pitched it at my face. It hit my face. I had been taking kickboxing at the time. I was in high heels and like a half shirt. Like, who wears a half shirt? And I stopped what I was doing. I picked up the cherry and I said, who the fuck threw this at my face? And everyone pointed to this guy who was about 6'7". And I walked into the audience. I came to his knee and I was so enraged. Now I know why people actually get into fist fights. And this had never happened to me, but I'd flown 18 hours and I got in his face and I said, did you throw this at my face? Did you throw this at my face? Because it's the size of your balls, small balls. And the whole room goes, small balls. And once you nickname someone in the military, that name stays with them forever. And I was like, you throw this at my face ever again, I will kill you. Like, I threatened the guy. I lost it. And then I went back to the stage, finished my 15 more minutes. Wow. And then left. And then the other comic was Pete Gray. And they threw glass at him. Like, they didn't give a fuck. And when we were driving home they drove us home. Nobody stepped in. Nobody. Such disrespect. And when we were driving back to our hotel, the guy drives back. It's like, you guys did really great. And I'm like, well, what did the last comics do? What did they do? Stone them to death?
Yeah. What did happen? I wonder. They might have walked off.
I don't know.
That's so strange.
Yeah.
It's not the Navy from the Sex and the City that I know.
No, it's not. I had it in Bahrain too. Did I say Bah? Do you like I made Bahrain Hebrew? Bahrain, I Also, it was the Navy. They just got off. No, it was Dubai. They'd all just gotten off a boat. They were really rowdy. And like after the show, like while I was on stage, guys kind of started to surround me. It almost felt like, it was very uneasy. And it's just because when they get stuck on these boats and they come off, they drink a shit ton and they all get really drunk and wild. And that's just the women. Like the dudes is a whole nother level. So I didn't have the best first experience, but my experiences with the military after that were amazing. So it kept me in the game. I didn't quit.
Yeah.
After that one
it's
moment.
Definitely more, positive things than negative experiences. And that definitely happens everywhere. Hopefully a little less. Recently I was in New York City a couple of weeks ago and I noticed that I didn't get any cat calls, and at first I was like,
what's wrong with me?
Well, no, I thought, this Me Too thing is really paying off. And then I thought, wait a minute, I'm getting old. I mean, I think I'm delusional. I mean, so it's
not at all. Nuh-uh. Are you kidding? Look at you. They see you coming.
Let me ask you one more thing about that, and we got to move on. But Johnny Cardinelli said that, a lot of times when they have alcohol, they give them these drink tickets. Like everybody gets 2 or 3.
That's if they're deployed. So in Japan and Korea, they are not deployed. In deployed areas like Afghanistan or Iraq, where they all have to hold M16s the whole time during the show. It's, it's a war zone. So they only get drink tickets, but in some of those places, they don't get drinks at all. I saw that in Djibouti where they got drink tickets in Africa. And
interesting.
That was it. But in Afghanistan, I don't think they could drink at all. It's dry when it's really, really deployed.
Oh, God, those countries are something else. I mean, it is just obviously another world. You've just been everywhere, which is exciting. And then you've done a lot of television as well. You've been on the Community on NBC, and you've been on Chelsea lately back on E! And on Showtime. And you've just worked an awful lot the last 30 years. And you guys can find more about Shawn over at her website, hahachick.com. hahachick.com. And also your Twitter is at Shawn Pelofsky, right?
Yes. Just rolls off your tongue, doesn't it?
Doesn't it?
So easy.
I love it. Shawn Pelofsky. I love it. All right, you guys, wherever you are, put your hands together for Shawn Pelofsky.
Thank you. Thank you again for having me. Well, I figured, I have a lot of stories to tell, but I think since we've been talking comedy and we've been talking the Comedy Store, one of my most, if not the most memorable moment I ever had in comedy was this moment. And I will never forget, it was probably about 15 years ago. And I had just kind of started at the Comedy Store and I had performed. It was probably about 1:30 in the morning in the original room. And I think I performed to like 10 people max. And it was just during the dead years at the Comedy Store where no one's giving you any response. And you're one out of 2 females maybe on the lineup. And I was still working a day job. And I was a front desk girl at a PR firm. And I just was like, okay, I got to get up in like 6 hours to get ready for work. And as I was walking outside to get ready to go to my car, and I'm on the patio where a lot of people are sitting and drinking still, this gentleman stops me and he tells me, I really, really enjoyed your set. And I said, oh, you were one of the 10 people in the dark. And he said, yeah. And he gave me a card and he said, I work for the Playboy Channel and I produce a show called Night Calls. And have you ever heard of it or seen it? And I said, I've heard of it. My family had the Playboy Channel growing up, which my grandpa Max used to, when my grandparents would come in from Brooklyn, my like 4'8" grandpa, I would catch him when I'd come down the stairs. I would catch him watching Playboy. He would always change the channel late at night. And I would always see my grandpa watching nudies. So I was very familiar with the Playboy Channel. And he said, well, have you heard of the show? I said, yeah, I'd heard of the show. And he said, well, basically, I booked this show and I booked the comedians that come on it. And this show, basically what happens is there are two porn star hosts and they take calls, and then a comedian comes out and does some time and like five minutes, and then they leave. And then they're part of the set and the show is over. I said, okay. And he said, we've always had just a bunch of comics come on. I think you would be great. And I said, Playboy, listen, I'm not a sexually inhibited person by any means, but I'm going to pass. And he said, but, we've never had a female comic on the show. And those words were like ding, 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 ding. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And that registered with me. And I said, okay, I'll do the show. You've never had a woman? Well, we need to get women on there. Women need to represent. I'll do the show. And the moment I said yes to that show was the moment I set women back 1,000 years. The next day, this producer calls me. He gives me my date. He tells me, okay, this is where it is. The set's located in Eagle Rock. You're going to come in. There will be dancers and whatnot, and the host will be there. So come, prepare 5 minutes, and we'll show you more when you get here. I said, okay, fine. So I really didn't tell a lot of people about this gig. I told one guy I worked with, and he said, can people come to this? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, I'll bring my friend. And I said, okay, I guess it'll be nice to have somebody there, because I do believe they bring in a live audience for this show. So I drive over to Eagle Rock. I show up. They send me to the back room, and I'm literally in the back with all the porn stars, the pole dancers, and everybody is nude. And though I am an extrovert, by all means, where I'm not an extrovert is nudity. And I always kind of I'm that girl who's in the corner taking her bra off through her shirt or whatnot. So now I'm standing in a back dressing room with a bunch of naked girls. I'm the only clothed one. So I felt like the fat girl that wasn't invited to the party. Like, does anybody want to play Twister? Uno? Everyone's just looking at me and I'm like, hi. And I'm awkward, just awkward. Like I look like someone's Jewish aunt. So they're all back there nude. And at that moment, I'm just looking around and I'm like, gosh, I have to use the bathroom. So I go to use the bathroom, and now I'm scared to even use the bathroom. I'm like looking at the toilet. There's no toilet seat covers. And I'm like, those girls are all porn stars. I'm making judgments, I'm totally in a judgment zone because they're just nude walking around. And so now I have to go to the bathroom, and I'm like, okay, do I just, I raise my ass like really high. I don't touch the toilet in case chlamydia is airborne. I'm not sure what's happening in here, but I know I'm aware of my surroundings. So the producer takes me out to show me the set. I see poles set up. They call in, the girls, and they're all warming up. And I see that they have a theme for every show with the two porn hosts. I cannot, if you tell me their names, Jessie James, I think was one of the porn hosts who's really famous. She's really beautiful. But the two porn hosts were gorgeous. They had the perfect boobs, perfect bodies. And I couldn't figure out why, they had, well, I guess we can all figure out if people go into porn. So I saw the set. I saw the dancers. There's glass dildos. There's girls dancing. Just everybody's doing everything to each other. And they bring out the first comic. So they have 2 tapings that day. One is not going to be live with an audience, and mine is going to be later, and it's going to be with a live audience. So I get to watch this first taping, how it goes. So they bring in this comic from Last Comic Standing. I cannot remember his name either. And he was really, really, really funny. And so they start taping. The two porn hosts take calls from male callers who are heavy breathing, having pervy fantasies. I can't remember what the theme was for these two porn hosts, but I can just see the girls in the background and they're all on top of each other. And there's poles, they're eating ass. There's so much is going on. And then they call the comedian out, and his name was Corey. Corey was his name. And Corey does 5 minutes. And I swear it was 5 minutes on abortion. And his jokes were really funny. And I was laughing. I was like, oh my God, this guy's really good. And I'm kind of shocked at what I'm watching because I just can't believe they have somebody coming out to do comedy in the middle of whatever is going on in the background. It's like, who could even focus? And I am like, I can't believe what I'm watching. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm trying to focus on this guy's comedy, but I'm like, what did I say yes to? What did I get myself into? And I go backstage and I'm sitting in the dressing room and I'm like, kind of like Rain Man. I'm rocking like, how do I get out of this? How do I get out of this? You know, this wasn't the $250 that they're paying me. This was not a smart move for my career. Who could possibly see this? And it's not, again, you know, if it wasn't being taped and going on TV somewhere, then maybe, you know, this is something, of course, I shouldn't be fretting about. But I'm like, what if this goes out into the universe? And this is, again, before time where, yes, there was an internet, but it wasn't like social media. It was like MySpace years. It wasn't such a sensation where everything goes everywhere, where people whip out their camera phones. And I thought, okay, this was a mistake. I got to get out of this. And I'm thinking, God, I signed something. Can I get out of this? And then the producer comes in and he knocks on my door and he sits down. He goes, Shawn, can I talk to you for a moment? And I said, sure, what's going on? And he goes, we need to go over your material for this next taping. And I said, why? And he goes, because that last comic, he really crossed the line. He really crossed the line. So I feel the need that we need to go over your, and I go, what? And he said, the comic really crossed the line. I said, are you watching your own show? What do you mean the comic crossed the line? I said, you have people eating ass behind the comic. Like girls are eating each other's asses. How could he cross the line with an abortion joke? And he said, it's just not Playboy's thing. It's going to really turn off the crowd. I said, oh, okay. So we go over my stuff. He says, it's all good. Now I'm really like, I got to get out of here. What do I do? My friend is coming. I'm just like, okay, you can do this. You can make this happen. So I go to the set. They take me through and they have a little mark on this set and they're going to show me where my mark is, where I stand. There's like 3 cameras. They show me which camera I turn and perform to. And then you're part of the show. Afterwards, they tell you the porn host will walk you to the bar on the set and you sit as part of the set for the rest of the show. Okay, I can do this. So I'm backstage, the live show, all the audience is piling in. I see my friend show up with his friend and I see them all sitting in the bleachers. A bunch of pervy guys. There's not one woman around, a bunch of pervy guys holding in an erection, sitting in the bleachers. The theme to my show was older women versus younger women. So one porn host is dressed as a schoolgirl and one is dressed as the sexy teacher. So the whole time they're taking calls from pervy guys and they take this call from like Mike from Nebraska. And they're like, Mike, do you think that older women or younger women are better in bed? And Mike's like telling them what he thinks of older women and younger women, and he's telling them what he'd like them to do to each other. And he's totally heavy breathing. And suddenly you look at the camera from the camera angle, it's like The camera angle is like a large penis. And so one of the porn hosts is talking to Michael over the phone and talking dirty to him. And she's sucking off and playing with the penis, which is the camera angle. So it's the viewer at home, you are getting your dick sucked. And then the camera you can hear this guy coming over the phone.
Oh, God.
And then Spooge comes out of the fake penis all over this porn star. And she rubs it all over her titties. She rubs it all over her titties. And then the other one she's like, you want me to lick it off? And all the guys, everyone's cheering. And then I'm backstage, right? And I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I can't believe this call. I can't believe this. And then one of the porn stars, I think it was Jessie James, she turns to the camera and she says, who also likes a cum load all over her titties? Our comedian, Shawn Pelofsky. And I am backstage with my mouth open, like mouth. And I'm like, and I take a moment and I walk out on stage. And I'm walking really fast. It's like my arms to my side. I'm walking really fast paced. And I'm like, oh my God. Of course I don't like spooge on my titties. I'm Jewish. And I'm walking. I miss my mark. I'm so nervous and so out of my head. And I start performing, and I'm performing really, really fast. And I'm just kind of like looking around, and I've totally missed my mark. And I see a cameraman, and he's like sashaying. It's kind of like a bad Mel Brooks movie where he's just like over here. And I'm totally performing to the wrong camera. And halfway through, I realize I'm performing to the wrong camera. I perform to the right camera. I rush through my set. I think I called everybody a perv again. And then after my set, one of the porn stars, and she's topless, still with like the fake spooge on her. And she comes up to me and she grabs me by the arm and she walks me over to the bar. And she's like, oh my God, you are so fucking funny. And I'm like, you're topless. Like there's no game face. I am like disgusted. I'm freaked out. Her titties touching my shoulder. And I'm just freaked out. And I sit at the bar and I continue to watch this train wreck of a show. And I'm next to this girl who is so beautiful. I mean, she could have been on America's Next Top Model. And they call her as the next guest. And they bring this girl out and she sits down and they're like, Tyler here. And they're like, hey, Shawn, have you always wanted like a tighter, younger pussy? And I was like, what? And they're like, Tyler here has invented an ointment just for that. And they interview Tyler and then they open Tyler's legs and they apply her ointment onto her. And it's just like this abomination. And I'm just sitting at this bar. And by the way, by the bar are their dancers, pole dancers behind me. So there's like, if at my head, so if I turn, God. there's an asshole in my face. So I'm like, somebody help me. There's an asshole in my face. And I'm beside myself. And then Tyler sits back down next to me and she's like, did I do okay? And I'm like, did you do okay, Tyler? You're the pussy ointment tightener inventor. Did you do okay? I missed my mark. I'm on this show. My career's over. It's over. And it hadn't even begun. I'm like, you did okay. You're fine. And then they begin to show a porn of this girl, Addison, who was, I think, maybe 17, 18. She was like so young. She'd just gotten off the bus. And I don't know what happened to poor Addison for her to get into porn. And we're watching poor Addison get gangbanged by like 5 guys. And I thought, oh my God, it was like a 9/11. I was like, I got to get out of here. This is torturous. This is so bad. And after we were done taping, I ran out of there like Jodie Foster in The Accused. I ran out of there so fast. I didn't turn back. I was mortified. I left my friends in the dust. And I knew that they had taped this whole thing, that it was going on TV that night. And I called my mom and I said, Mom, oh my God, that was a nightmare. And she goes, I can't believe you didn't tell us. We were going to watch it. You didn't tell your brother and I, and we were going to watch you on this. And I said, no, Mom, you cannot possibly watch this. And it's like, why? Why couldn't I watch this? And I said, Mom, there were women in the background eating ass behind me. And she said, as I was doing comedy, and I shit you not, my mom said, well, how do you eat an ass? And I was like, oh my God, I'm mortified. I can't believe this. And she said, you know what, Shawn, don't be such a prude. And that's how that story ended, which I cannot even believe happened, but it did. And I still have the DVD of that show. And I always thought to myself, it's something I would show in a one-woman show because, I really need to have a viewing because you can see I have no game face. You can see my mouth open. You can see me passing judgment on everybody. And it's a scream, but it's like the craziest.
You have to have a night where you show that. First of all, you should get it digitized because DVDs fail as well. You know what I mean?
That's true. I'd love to see the person that has to digitize that for me. Poor person.
Did you ever put any of that into YouTube to see if it's there at all? Because boy, they got, obviously there's so much there.
I've never put that title in. I've never seen it come up. But God, I think I just pass out if I thought that was somewhere, but it's a possibility.
There's some crazy, obviously. Yeah. It's funny what you'll find when you look. And so did you get paid? Did you get the $250?
Yeah, I got the $250. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And do you think that this all comes down to, youth versus maturity? Is that the lesson? You were very, very young and now you have more confidence.
Yeah, I think I did this because I thought, well, why don't they have women on this show? So what if it's a Playboy? I've watched Playboy before. I just didn't realize to what extent this show was. And if you want to tell me Playboy's tasteful, which it always kind of seemed to be, it didn't seem this X-rated. At least when I had watched it growing up. And I don't have, I don't care. Especially now, I'm a big ally in the gay community, and on those gay cruises, I have seen it all. I'm practically, I think like a gay man, and there's a lot of things that I will do, but I think at that moment, it just was not the right moment. It's not a time for a comedian to come out.
Yeah, it just all seems so degrading. It's all very degrading. When you were backstage at first and you saw everybody was nude, what were they doing? Just like their hair and makeup and stuff?
They were just talking. Maybe they were just walking and talking and hanging out nude. I go to a Burke Williams spa and I'm the person in a bathing suit and a robe. Yeah. I'm just not gonna, and that's my own fault. Maybe I'm not that comfortable in my own skin it's just not my comfort level. And it's not my sisters are not like that either. But the whole thing it was just not appropriate for comedy. And the way I got brought out was and I should have made a joke. I should have been of course I don't now I would have handled that so much differently.
So then differently, of course.
I wouldn't have been on that. If I had seen what I had, being in that moment, I would have been you know what, this isn't going to propel my career forward.
So were your friends in the audience and what did they say to you? Did they say get out, Shawn, let's get out of here?
No, they were two young, Guatemalan guys. It was their best day of their life. They still talk about it. We still laugh about it. It's something that I honestly, it's a funny story. And once in a while, I have a viewing party at my house to show people, but very few people have ever seen this. But the guys, they loved it. They loved that show. Are you kidding? Those girls were there. They were hot. They were beautiful, and
Sure.
it was just insane shit happening. I'm surprised a donkey didn't come out.
Yeah, you just didn't expect it. You didn't know this would be part of it. I did the Man Show, I think in 99, and it still makes me sick to my stomach that I went on there and told jokes. And that was the same. I mean, not nearly like that, but it was just those guys sitting around degrading women and women on trampolines. And then they would try to have female comics like it was empowering, but it was not. It was just, they just treated you, it was just gross.
Yeah.
And it's so funny too when, I have a daughter now, she's 14, and, I don't want, she's such a good girl. She's not who I was at all at 14. Thank God. She's much more like her dad. And, but I would love to tell women, like, just, try to say no when you feel that inkling in your stomach, like that's the red light. But it's like, I guess at the same time, we all have to go through these things because you have to learn them somehow. So you think, okay, well, I know the red signs are out, the warning signs are out there, and maybe I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to go through it with the warning signs in mind and like kind of distance from the start, or like put your defenses up. So maybe there's a line between don't do it and just go through it, but be smart and think like this is bullshit and I'll walk at any time.
Yeah. I just think, I'm open sexually and I didn't want to pass judgment like sex wise, but I just think when you're going to combine comedy and you're going to suck off a fake, penis, and then you're going to bring on the comic, and then behind me, as I'm performing, there's, girls getting it on. It's like, it's like, it's kind of like, I can't imagine like Jim Brewer when he opens up for Metallica. Like, I can't imagine, like, if they're there to see Metallica, they're not as funny as Jim Brewer is. It's like, it's kind of this thing where it's unexpected, a comic coming out to open up for a heavy metal band, and you don't expect the comic to come in. Again, it's like the same thing with the Luxor show. That was at least a tasteful topless show. And so when I would come out, it was like, well, you're at least in Vegas. There's an entertainment value. But when you're standing and you see guys, creepy guys, and they're cheering on her second, like it was no place for me.
That's disgusting. And in Vegas, the costumes are very different. The costumes, they don't even look like it just looks like costume and design. It doesn't look as much like nudity, as it were. Well, listen, you have seen it all, Shawn Pelofsky, and you continue to work. You continue to do such good stuff. I absolutely adore you. I'm always thrilled when I see you on the lineup.
Well, Christine, thank you.
And I just think you're fantastic. You really are. And I appreciate you coming on the show. You guys can find her again over at hahachick.com, obviously. And then go over and watch her Stretch It Out comedy special on Amazon, or really wherever you want to find it. It's everywhere. God damn, it's funny. You make me laugh so hard. Thank you. I really appreciate you coming on.
If you'd like some pussy ointment tightener, I can call Tyler.
Hook me up.
Yeah.
Do I? Do I?
I'm hooked.
I'll see you around town for sure.
Christine, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to do the show.
Thank you. All right, you guys, one more time on behalf of Shawn Pelofsky, my name is Christine Blackburn, saying make it a story-worthy week.
Thanks for joining us on the Storyworthy Podcast. We'll be back next week with all new stories. Subscribe to Storyworthy on iTunes and visit the Storyworthy website at storyworthypodcast.com.